Good morning and welcome to Staff's Live Breakfast with Lewis Warner and Joe Farrett. It's just gone 11 o'clock on Friday the 15th of April. Hope you're well this morning.
Coming up on the programme today,
we'll catch up on the latest news headlines in a moment.
Also, we'll be taking a look through what's made the front pages of the papers this morning.
Later, we'll be talking about the vinyl revival as it's National Record Store Day tomorrow.
And I've been to learn all about the history of bread making in North Staffordshire.
Very, very interesting. But first, here's a rundown of the latest news. Today marks the start of the official campaign ahead of the EU referendum in June. Both sides are expected to spend the day giving speeches and taking part in rallies. The London Mayor Boris Johnson will claim later today that the money Britain spends on the EU could be spent on the NHS. On the other side, the Stronger In campaign has accused Vote Leave of using incorrect figures on the UK's contribution to the EU budget.
A woman in her 70s is thought to have died in Tenerife after the building next to a Stoke City supporters bar collapsed after an explosion. The four-storey apartment building next to the Bootham supporters bar collapsed yesterday following a suspected gas leak. 9 people are still missing after the blast and rescue teams are continuing the search.
Hopefully everybody else will be okay and safe there. Now, the firm behind the Dolmio pasta sauces and Uncle Ben's rice says some products should be only consumed once a week due to high salt, sugar or fat content. Mars Foods said it would distinguish between everyday and occasional items on their packets and their websites. The advice is part of their health and well-being ambition to create and promote healthier food choices. So we can have our Dolmio day then.
Indeed, mamma mia. Now, here in Longton, a car has crashed into a hairdresser's this morning. Police, fire and ambulance service attended after a BMW crashed into the Strand just after 7 a.m. this morning. The rear of the car caught fire as a result of the impact and there are no reports of any injuries.
2 teenage girls have been charged with kidnapping a 3-year-old child in central Newcastle upon Tyne. The child went missing from the Primark store in Northumberland Street shortly after 5 p.m. on Wednesday. She was found just over an hour later, about 3 miles away in Gosforth. Now then, have a look what's making the front page of the papers this morning. On the front page of The Times, shareholders in BP voted overwhelmingly to reject a massive pay rise for its chief executive. That would have given £14 million. Also, there's some nice pictures here of the Duchess of Cambridge, who's taking part in an archery display there. That's nice.
Front page of The Guardian, same story about BP. They ran with the boards warned on parallel universe pay as the two companies face rebellion. Apparently 60% of shareholders voted against the rise. And a story about knife crime in central London, saying 15 people died last year alone.
On the front page of the Daily Mirror, super bugs are deadlier than cancer. That's what they say. There's fears that 10 million people a year could die from infections as antibiotics become increasingly ineffective. That's what the Daily Mirror says this morning.
And on the Daily Mail, it's a Dolmio story again. We need to cut back on these apparently because of the salt, fat and sugar content in the products. Some of the products have said that we need to cut back on are lasagna, sauces, oven baked kits and even macaroni and cheese.
In your local paper, The Sentinel, they're saying £8 million worth of a vote of confidence as Stoke-on-Trent is to become a multi-million-pound national centre for ceramics. The Staffordshire University is also helping to develop plans for the pottery firms to become more competitive. So that sounds like all good news there then.
Now, moving on, much has been made over the last year of the so-called vinyl revival. Sales are at a 20-year high and some supermarkets are now getting in on the action by selling records.
They are, and tomorrow marks National Record Store Day, which aims to get people back into LPs. Joe Thompson went down to a local record store to see what all the fuss was about.
Yeah, because traditionally it's been a struggle for 20 odd years in a way through obviously CDs, etc. The idea is that they come in and then hopefully, they obviously come again.
The lure of exclusive vinyl can lead some customers to take extreme measures.
I think the first couple of guys last year were in the queue from, I think they got here just after 2 a.m. Bryce sent him home, I said, look, this is not London or it's not Manchester. you're first in the queue, come back at 7:30,
Exactly.
and they're dead set. So, yeah, but it's a general flow all day, really, of people who, be honest, you've never really seen, and they just want that exclusive item either to keep or to resell on. That does happen, obviously.
Yeah.
But the idea is hopefully that they come in and they might come again.
Record Store Day will see an increase in customers for most independent record shops, but do they come back all year round?
History suggests no. Obviously, I can identify the hardcore in the queue who probably come monthly or a few times a year, but generally, people in the queue, you're thinking, we're here all year, come back again.
Mm-hmm.
Record Store Day here is probably every day in a way.
Vinyl sales are 10 times what they were a decade ago, leading to supermarket Sainsbury's stocking vinyl for the first time since the 1980s. But can independent record stores compete?
Well, we can't really compete with HMV or supermarkets because they can buy them in for less, obviously, than what we can. But we can offer a service, you see. We can sell genres of music what they won't. I mean, if you want anything obscure or soul or jazz or blues, they probably won't have it, I can imagine. And also, they can't really talk about it, I can imagine, as well. Because if you're just like me here, who's just a one-person shop owner, the work involved in it, it's just absolutely huge. I mean, he's still dropping off items today, tomorrow, and we've got to try and get it all sorted out and priced up. So you'll have groups and artists who either release an LP or a single, and it's all exclusive items. Yeah, there's some great items this year from Noel Gallagher. He's doing a 12-inch exclusive item. Justin Bieber, like him or loathe him, he's doing a 12-inch picture disc of his latest album. Biggest selling unit last year was the One Direction 7-inch one, and I stocked it. I thought, well, I'm going to get a bit of criticism here, but we sold out by 1 o'clock. Yeah, but there's loads of obscurities as well. It's not just the obvious ones. It's like Brazilian psychedelia or some Japanese obscure group what you've never heard of.
Now, we all know that Stoke-on-Trent is famous for its oatcakes, but a local arts project is trying to highlight Staffordshire's history when it comes to another food that's been part of our diet for hundreds of years.
That's right, I paid a visit to an old warehouse in Stoke to find out a bit more. While most of us were still sleeping yesterday morning, a group of volunteers in an old warehouse on Hartshill Road in Stoke were busy at work. Bread in Common is a lottery-funded arts project turned bakery, encouraging people to learn more about what it takes to make bread while at the same time selling all their products to order to the local community.
Bread in Common is Stoke's first real bread community bakery. So it's run by Be Arts. We've been in the city for 30 years and we've got increasingly interested in baking with people, baking for people, baking with real bread, so that's just flour, water and salt. The first and most important thing is that our bread tastes great and that it's baked fresh and in Stoke. But we also want to encourage people to bake their own bread.
And it's not just about baking bread. The project aims to share stories about bread making in Staffordshire's past as well.
We did a history project a couple of years ago as part of developing our skills and our capacities around bread and we wanted to discover the history of bread in Stoke-on-Trent. We got stories from bakers, from people telling us of traditional recipes that their parents or their grandparents had made. And we built up, which you can see on the Bread in Common website, a whole archive of stories about the history of bread and baking in Stoke and North Staffordshire.
And you can find out more about the archive as well as how to get your hands on some of their tasty creations at breadincommon.com. Joe Farrer, Staffs Live. I'm feeling very hungry after that
I
one.
am. I love a bit of bread.
Now, diabetes is a condition that a great many people have to live with, sadly. 422 million people around the world suffer from the disease, and in 2012 there was 1.5 million deaths recorded related to diabetes.
We spoke to David Fleetham about the pressures that he faces with this condition and how better treatment is making things better for him.
It was about January the 1st, 1996 when I got found out, so I was only about 16 months old, so I've never known a day without it. It is challenging, yeah, because obviously people don't understand the concept of I can eat what I want sort of thing, and obviously I don't have to just eat specific things like eat fruit, don't eat chocolate bars, things like that. Trying to get people to understand that is a lot harder than a lot of people realise, because it is, you know, it's just something you've just got to consider rather than it being a control over your life sort of thing. It used to before changed to 4 units a day. 4 needles a day. But now I'm on 4 a day. I can pick and choose what I want, what I eat, when I eat, things like that, and just do insulin accordingly. I have to keep in mind for what I do, for I'm eating and things like that. But other than that, I just do it as I want, sort of thing.
More on that story that was on the front page of the Sentinel that we showed you earlier.
Plans to create a new ceramics education and research centre in Shelton have been announced. The National Centre for Ceramics Excellence aims to research new technologies and train the next generation of ceramic experts.
Our reporter Laura Woodford is here with us now to give us a little bit more of an insight into this project. Laura.
Hi, yeah, well, obviously this project's still in the early stages, but Staffordshire University have announced that it should cost around £8 million to fund, but they're going to be asking people like the Heritage Lottery Fund for some of that.
Are there any other ways that this money can be raised?
Well, yes, actually there is. The university itself actually owns a Chinese Ming mug, which they're going to sell at auction, and they're expecting to get around the £2 million mark for, leaving only 6 that they need to raise.
And what kind of effect could this centre have on the city?
Well, ultimately, it's the idea that it will bring together existing art and design courses at the university, as well as helping students set up their own creative businesses if that's what they want to do. But not only that, but it will be open to the general public, and there'll be lots of interactive displays and things using art that the students at the university have produced.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Laura. Hopefully we get quite a bit from that mug then if we sell off. Now over the sport with Max.
Thanks, guys. Manchester City have drawn Manuel Pellegrini's old club. And that's all for your sport now. Back to Lewis and Joe.
Thank you very much, Max.
And now over to Danny Lavalette with the weather.
Today we're looking at a rather cloudy day with outbreaks of showery rain, which are likely to be heavy at times, particularly over the hills. However, there may be some brighter spells in between the rain and showers. Tonight, cloud and rain will continue to move southeastwards this evening and overnight. The rain may possibly turn to snow over the hills as it turns colder from the north. In terms of temperature, you're looking at highs of 9 degrees Celsius and lows of 1. That's all your weather for now. Have a great day.
That's all for now. We'll be back at 1 o'clock. Goodbye.
Goodbye.